Every week, Bryan Hayes joins us for Harvey's Hot Takes, and I know he's got a hot take about a dismal performance by the Edmonton Oilers in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final on Monday night. They lose 6-1, but perhaps more alarming for Oiler fans, Hazy B, the fact that Connor McDavid had 2 shots and Leon Draisaitl had, 0 shots, both effectively shut down. Safe to say if Edmonton's going to come back and win this series that those two cannot have a night like that again. And 97 really has to shoulder the load.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Stanley Cup finals in particular, Jay, is we're right in the eye of the storm of these, legacy debates, these legacy conversations. And I live for these, and I know you do too. And I know all hockey fans do, sports fans do. We love it, right? Constantly, the GOAT debate. And I know this summer we're going to be talking about it from coast to coast, whether it's around bars or campfires or cottages or docks or whatever. What do we make of McDavid? Is he chasing down the greats of all time? And the beauty of the Cup final is we're right, again, in the midst of this, where this is what we wait for, right? It's not about what you do during the regular season anymore. It's not even what you do the first, second, third round. It's about getting it done in the Cup final. And you mentioned it in Game 3. I thought McDavid was terrible based on his standards, and Draisaitl for that matter. But this is such a big opportunity for Connor McDavid that he's crawled back to the Cup final after what happened last year, where I didn't think he had a great Game 7 in his first Cup final. But these are the legacy moments. These are the platforms where you build on your resume so you can get into these conversations with the all-time greats. And I think there's 2 players in particular that McDavid is always going to be connected to, and that's Sidney Crosby and Wayne Gretzky. Now, because Sid passed the baton to him, and those 2 have been the 2 best players in the game for the last 20, 25 years, and they're all-time great players. And obviously Wayne Gretzky because of the team he plays for. And if you're going to chase the GOAT, then that's the guy. Wayne Gretzky's the guy. And I think when you look at their careers, it's a striking parallel to what McDavid's facing right now. The first Cup final for Wayne Gretzky with the Edmonton Oilers, 1983, they lost that series against the Islanders. The next year, they got back there against the Islanders. They won that Stanley Cup. He never looked back, right? They win in 84, 85, 87, 88. Sidney Crosby, the same thing, runs into Detroit in 08. They lose his first time in the Cup final. They crawl back the next year against Detroit. Sid wins that series. And now he's never lost in a Cup final, winning in 16 and 17. That's what's right in front of us here with Connor McDavid. If you're chasing Sid, if you're chasing Gretzky, it's kind of amazing the parallels. You lost to Florida last year. You can't lose again. I mean, it's that simple. When it comes to the GOAT conversation, it's right in front of us. You can't lose again. So it's got to be him on Thursday night. It's got to be him Game 4. And I believe that he will do it. I believe he shows up and has the best game we've seen him play, certainly in the final, if not throughout the playoffs, if not throughout his career, because I think he's well aware of his history. I think he's well aware of his own legacy and what he's building here. And Sid, again, didn't lose the second time to Detroit. Gretzky didn't lose the second time to the Islanders. I'm not saying he's going to lose on Thursday night in terms of the Cup, right? It would only be 3-1 for Florida. But if he goes down 3-1, I think he will feel it slipping away, and I think he should at that point. And the Oilers were terrible in Game 3. They've got to be way better. But like you said, it starts with Draisaitl and, most importantly, Connor McDavid. And all of us Canadian hockey fans, we've been talking about it forever. We'll talk about it well into the future. These GOAT conversations, these big legacy moments, we're right in the eye of the storm here. Sid's got to follow in the footsteps of Crosby in 09, Gretzky in 84. That starts Game 4 Thursday night.
I want to talk about the hottest team in baseball, Bryan Hayes. That's the Toronto Blue Jays. I know a lot of people might find that hard to believe, but it's absolutely a fact. They've been incredible lately. They also spent a ton of money this offseason, as you know. I want to go through the list very quickly with you, Brian. Anthony Santander hasn't been great, currently on the injured list. Max Scherzer, he's pitched 3 innings. Jeff Hoffman, 16 saves, but an ERA of 5.5. Maybe a year later than the team would have wanted, but really it's been internal improvement that has this team chasing a playoff spot. Did you see that coming? Did anyone see that coming?
Ross Atkins must have seen it coming, I guess, right? Like, why isn't Ross doing the tour right now? That's what I want to know, because he got buried for that commentary an offseason ago, where it was internal improvements. That's how this team's going to get out of the hole that they dug themselves 2 years ago, was internal improvements. And we saw what it led to last year, right? They were abysmal. They had a terrible season. And I think Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, they learned from that. And the PR team, I'm sure, got to them and said, do not mention the term internal improvements. Please don't do it. Yet that's exactly what's happened. You're absolutely right. All the guys you mentioned, the big fish that they signed and acquired in the offseason, have really done nothing. They've done nothing. It's been internal improvement. A guy like Addison Barger, who was within the organization and improved internally and grew and got to the bigs, and now he's popping. Bo Bichette is healthy again. He's playing great. Alejandro Kirk looks like the guy we saw a few years ago at the plate, a true stud that's putting up numbers. They're hitting for power. They're all of a sudden a machine when it comes to runners in scoring position. It's incredible what's happening here, where the internal improvement is the reason why they're the hottest team in baseball for the last 5 or 6 weeks. Why basically when Bowden Francis isn't on the mound, they're a 90-95 win team. And I would also point to something that happened that didn't lead to the most headlines, but that was the turning over of the hitting coach. Guillermo Martinez was within this organization for a long time. They fired him last offseason. They brought in David Hopkins. Again, when it happened, that's not a name like Anthony Santander. That's not a name certainly like Max Scherzer. You know, Andreas Jimenez, another guy they acquired. There were a lot of different things that popped up over the course of the offseason that people pointed to and said, okay, new players, new lease on life. Let's see what happens. It turns out the internal improvement that really was the most significant was they got rid of their hitting coach, brought in a new guy, and the stats have absolutely popped. They are absolutely on fire. They look great. Internal improvements have arrived. And I guess Ross Atkins, he's got to get out and start doing the tours, man. Start puffing your chest because you called it. It just showed up about 18 months too late.
And then there's Aaron Rodgers, who met the media in Pittsburgh for the first time since signing with the Steelers. We knew if he was going to play in 2025, it was more than likely he was going to be with the Steelers. What are your expectations for this season, the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin? It feels like it's headed to disaster. Am I wrong, Bryan Hayes?
I'm not convinced you're wrong. No, I'm not convinced you're wrong. But what's amazing here is it's a necessary marriage. They need each other. They both really do need each other. They're both going to the Hall of Fame. They're both larger than life figures in the sport, Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers. They both won one Super Bowl. And the one Super Bowl that Aaron Rodgers won with the Green Bay Packers was, interestingly enough, against Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if you look at Tomlin and the Steelers, they make the playoffs every single year. They go nowhere because of their quarterback play, largely because of their quarterback play. And I'm talking 5 or 6 years running now. Even when Roethlisberger was playing his last 2 or 3 years, he just wasn't himself. And they've turned over a lot of different names, and they've brought in a lot of different guys like Kenny Pickett and Justin Fields and all these other guys, obviously Russell Wilson last year, and it just simply hasn't worked. It hasn't been enough for them to stay strong into December, into January, and win in the playoffs. So enter Aaron Rodgers. You have to give it a shot. You have to, because he's talented and you know what he's capable of doing. So this is going to have to lead to Mike Tomlin possibly bending a little bit. He won't break because that's just not who he is, right? He runs a tight ship, but he is desperate. He's got to win. He's got to get playoff success, and I think he's got to chase and eventually get that second Super Bowl. And on the flip side, Aaron Rodgers is in the same position. He's desperate. He needs Mike Tomlin and the Steelers to prove that it wasn't him the last year in New York. It was the Jets, right? It wasn't Rodgers that was the issue in New York. It was that the Jets are incapable of ever having success, and they always shoot themselves in the foot. And the fact of the matter is, even the way he went out in Green Bay, yes, he grabbed those last couple MVP seasons where he was really good during the regular season. He hasn't been very good in the playoffs. He hasn't. At the end of the year, at the end of the run in Green Bay, it didn't go so well, right? That famous final game at Lambeau where all he had to do was beat the Lions at home to make the playoffs. He didn't play well. They lost that game. They missed the playoffs. And we know what's happened the last 2 years in New York, that injury notwithstanding. So Rodgers needs Tomlin. He needs Pittsburgh. And Tomlin and Pittsburgh, they need Rodgers. So I'm not convinced it's going to work. It's a really tough division. There's some great quarterbacks there, obviously with Lamar Jackson and with Joe Burrow. So I'm not convinced it'll work, but I do think they can make the playoffs because Tomlin does that. The Steelers do that based on who they are, what their history is. The question will be, can Rodgers stay out of his own way? Can he read the playbook, play the playbook, and just be an honest quarterback and don't turn the ball over, something he has famously done well throughout his career. One of the all-time great, splits in terms of touchdowns to interception quarterback we've ever seen. Can he consistently do that and then elevate come playoff time? I'm not convinced he can. I don't think he can. I don't think he will in the playoffs. But it is a necessary marriage at this point, and I think it's going to be a fascinating storyline.
If nothing else, I can't wait for both the post-game press conferences because Tomlin's are always compelling no matter whether he wins or loses, and so are Rodgers. So if the play on the field is bad, we'll just look forward to the play after the game is over. This is Bryan Hayes. This has been Harvey's Hot Takes.
Hot Takes is presented by Harvey's. Customize your burger and get it delivered from our app to your door. Harvey's, it's a beautiful thing.